Welcome to the Slade Ham experiment, everybody. I'm your host, Slade Ham, the pilot and proprietor of this midnight spaceship. So welcome aboard. A toast. It is non-alcoholic. I've got a flight to pilot. I don't know where we're going this episode. I should say that up front. So a little bit of housekeeping. Go watch the special if you haven't done it. Thumbs it up and leave a comment. I usually respond to every comment, even on these things. I enjoy the engagement. So go do that. It obviously helps. Two, if there's any bit you like or anything, go post it on Reddit. I would love to see some of my reels and my clips ending up on Reddit. That would be fantastic. This episode, we're going to get into. I've got a list of stuff that I've thought about this week, and I haven't thought about any of it for real, so we're just going to riff, I guess. Hopefully as good for me as it is for you. It looks like the house is in order. Let's do a podcast. I read a great many blogs in my daily slog to keep my head above this artistic water that I've chosen to drown myself in. One of the people that I read frequently is Steven Pressfield. If you don't know Steven Pressfield, he's written some movies and some scripts and some books and some things you would know, including The Legend of Bagger Vance. He is also known for writing The War of Art, which I frequently cite and is one of the most reread books I own. In fact, I give it away more than almost any book I've ever given it. More, definitely, for sure more, because it's the only book I've ever given away. Anyway, the point is, he's got his head wrapped around this difficult game we play. And lest you think that all of the problems with creativity and art just magically disappear at some point. Oh, I figured it out. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't know when that is, but it's certainly later than now. Steven Pressfield in his blog writes, he's very good at what he calls reporting from the trenches as he works on his own stuff. He lets us all know that we're all suffering. He says, I reported a few weeks ago about the experience of massive self-doubt on a new fiction piece. I'm just starting. This has been superseded in the past or two by a period that I'm sure we're all depressingly familiar with. When you work hard every day and see absolutely no progress. Ouch! Did I get you right in the sternum? Wait, he's talking about me. Whatever it is, it's a trial that definitely separates the pros from the amateurs. Can we take it? Can we keep slogging? He goes on to talk about different examples of this in sports, from pole vaulting to the Chicago Bulls. He says, in other words, this shit is normal. It happens in almost every industry. It is, he says, the process. He says, what's weird for me is that I've gone through this 50 times on previous projects, but I always forget how hard it was. Looking back, I remember struggling a bit, but not like what I'm going through this time. And that is the most, when I read it, it was so comforting. I'm smack in the middle of this, where I'm putting constraints on the projects that I say yes to. It's something I think we have to do. When I had nothing going on, everything was fair game. When I didn't know how to do anything, everything was fair game. I need to fill in this empty time. I need something productive to do. I also have an immense amount to learn. But now, as I pick my projects, I realize that they don't all teach me the same thing. Some things I've been doing for a really long time don't offer me anything anymore. When I wrote the first book, there was so much to learn. I'd never done it. Now there's new stuff to learn. That's what I'm working on. My friend, a very good friend of mine, another talented writer. He's a published author. He also has directed some things and worked in film in various ways. Vastly successful by any metric creative. And he's slogging his way through his second book right now, trying to put some of the pieces together, trying to write some stories. If you're a writer, you know sometimes you're just putting words on a page in the hopes that something there forms. You don't know. You just write. You write until you're out of stuff to write, and then you write some more, and eventually maybe that looks like something. That's where he's at. And he asked me, he goes, do I just not have any more stories to tell? And that's the fear that we've tapped ourselves out. That if I ship this, if I type the end, if I print it, if I press it, if I stick it on YouTube, then what? So we dilly-dally, we procrastinate, we talk ourselves out of stuff. Oh, this isn't any good. I better not show it to anybody. I better not put it out there. This isn't getting any better. The last thing I did was better. I'm actually getting worse. Maybe I should quit. This is in my head every day. However, so I was talking to my friend today. He goes, you just don't care, do you? And I said, what? He goes, about how any of what you're doing is received. And I said, I stopped. Because I say I don't. I profess not to. So I sat with it for a second. I said, do I care? Is there some care? Because I've built myself this inoculation. I've built this wall. Once I shove something over it, then it's gone forever. And I don't have to think about it anymore. And the question to myself is that healthy? Should I still be attached to something like the special or the book or something that's already out there? Like, emotionally, I know I still have work to do. I still have to promote it. I still have to talk about it. I still have to care in that regard. But in terms of what actually happens to it, do I care? I don't think. And the reason is, I cared a lot in the past. What would have changed that makes me not care now? And the main thing, the number one thing that has changed is I now know what I'm doing. When you don't know what you're doing, when you're making things and you're unsure of yourself and you're legitimately concerned about whether or not it's good, not just in our own insecure human ways, but because we really don't know. Do I even know what I'm doing? Then we have to be attached to the outcome because we need the feedback to let us know if we're between the lanes of what we're trying to do. But once you have a good idea and a deep understanding of the medium you're working in, then it stops being about any of that response. It's not that y'all didn't get it. It's just that you didn't get it. It's all right. Everything is as it should be from my end. How come you can't figure it? How come it's not in front of you like it should be? How come the wrong delivery guy brought it to you? How come it's not where it's... None of that's my fault. My job was to make it. I can't do anything past that. So that's where I'm at. I was empathizing with Stephen Pressfield, wondering if anything I'm doing has any impact. Have I plateaued? Am I going anywhere? Is what I'm working on worth anything at all? Have the decisions I've made been anywhere near correct? All of my choices, like I talk about, to walk away from Los Angeles or Hollywood or some of the stuff in New York, or the things that I've said no to or intentionally not participated in the search of the things I wanted to pursue. Was it right? I don't know. But the upside to keeping a journal like I do is I get to look back. And I was flipping through these journal entries, just trying to see where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, this point in the year, in prior years. And it's not until you list it all out that you realize, hey, maybe these have been the right decisions. Maybe I do kind of understand what I'm doing. 15 years ago, I was listening to the Rockets in the NBA championships from Saudi Arabia, or at least the playoffs. First time I'd ever been to Saudi. I was in Chop Chop Square that day. Dearest Square. That's where they cut your hand off if you steal stuff. 14 years ago, I was driving a boat through the Persian Gulf off the coast of Kuwait. A 30-foot Navy Sea Ark. That was a wild experience. 11 years ago, I was underneath Mount Vesuvius, the volcano right there outside of Naples. I was eating my first margarita pizza. I guess that's where it comes from, Naples. That was pretty cool. 9 years ago, I was staring down at Cusco, about to take the hike down the Salton Cay Trail all the way to Machu Picchu. 8 years ago, I was on a cold ferry along the white cliffs of Dover, crossing the English Channel from France to the UK, or vice versa. I don't know which direction I was going. Probably from the UK to France. 7 years ago, I was diving in Roatan for the first time. Reefside, the best reef system on this side of the world. 3 years ago, I was doing pre-production for Andy Huggins. It was after all of that pandemic stuff. I think 4 years ago, I was actually in Cabo. That's not even on my list. 2 years ago, I was visiting some tankers, guys who drive tanks in Bulgaria, out near the Polish border. 1 year ago, I was in the middle of the Kickstarter for my comedy special. And this year, I just wrapped the Kickstarter for an entirely different project that I'll talk about on a different episode, a science-related project that was also successful. So, when it comes to all of ourselves and whether or not we're working hard and seeing progress or we're not seeing progress, sometimes you don't have to see progress for there to be progress. You just got to keep slogging away, keep walking. That difference between the amateur and the professional, the one who doesn't really care what the day brought because you woke up and you chopped wood and you did good work. Speaking of good work. That's the phrase. What consists? What is good work? Right? I know what it means for me in my context, but for a regular job, for a person who's out looking for work, for looking for something to do with their time and energy, something to contribute to. What is good work? Sometimes in this economy, you can't help but wonder if any work is good work because work's hard and food's expensive and everything costs 20 times more than it should or did or ever will be again. I don't know. But rents and steaks and potatoes and everything has just gone through the roof. So really work, any work is great. But it's not. Because we're not here to work. We're not here to toil away and trade our hours and slave all in the name of just getting basic sustenance so that we can go about it again the next day and then figure out how to numb it all in between. We all know that's not right. I think it's important to find a vocation, a way to spend your time that feels valuable. I feel this way about a lot of people in positions of unearned power. That's the thing that rankles me. Security guards, tow truck drivers, things of that nature. I'm always letting tow truck drivers have it. People who have the ability to control your circumstances should have to earn that. I was at a going away party for a friend in a big place here in Houston called Post. It's got a giant food court, a couple of bars, restaurants, gigantic atrium, big upper roof area, smack in the heart of downtown. Now, the balloons spelled out bye or goodbye that were brought. They were Mylar balloons, silver. They look like aluminum foil. The letters were only about this big each. The entire thing about 3 or 4 feet wide. The balloons were all blown up by hand. They didn't float. And they were originally hung on one of, the steel, the gates you drag down in front of a mall store when they close. They were hung on that in front of a closed store. When the security guard came up and said, No. You got to take those down. So the people went and they took them all down. And then they hung them in front of an old trash can, like one of the big blocky trash cans that's just sitting there. No one's using it. So it says goodbye. Security guard comes back. No. You got to take them down. And I hear someone go, well, why? And he goes, no balloons in post. No balloons. And I understand the policy. It's a 5-story atrium. I'm sure knuckleheaded people dragging birthday and bachelor party balloons, and they're gaudy and they're big, and they're just releasing them into the air, and they float up, and next thing you know, your ceiling's covered, but there's no balloon drop. I get that. But no balloons in general. Can we get to the definition of this? What is a balloon in general? These are just pieces of aluminum foil puffed up a little bit. Calling them a balloon is pretty liberal. But the dictionary definition of a balloon is an air-filled sack tied at the neck. So I do slip over and I casually go, hey, Mr. Guard, is that your last name? Can I call you security? What is a balloon? And he said, it's a bag filled with air tied at the neck. I said, okay, well, what if these were full of liquid? Could we have them then? They're still balloons. All right. Well, what are my lungs then? And you could just see all 102 IQ points grind. Just pull that air brake on the train. 16 of those IQ points fell off. So it was really just him. They were other passengers. They weren't him. He didn't have all that. Brain squeals to a halt. They're air-filled bags, sir. Tied at the neck. And that get. Why do people treat these tiny kingdoms as so important? That guy has no dog in the balloon fight at Post Houston. It's not his ceiling. It's not his building. It's minimum, but not whatever he's making. Why do we accept this as a way of life? Why do we let ourselves wake up, be told where to be, and then when we get there, they give us a list of dictums like no balloons, and then your job, that is the actual definition of a thief of happiness, is someone who makes people put up balloons. Get your happy balloons out of here. Do you feel good about that? I get mad at these people, not because they say no balloons, but because they allow themselves to live such an unexamined life that you would say yes to a job that doesn't allow you the latitude to question whether or not these are harmful balloons or not. They're not full of cyanide. They're full of breath, and they're sitting there, and gravity's sort of holding them down, and they're unobtrusive, and they're about the size of a lady's purse, and quite honestly, less gaudy in many cases. They're just made of fancy Mylars. So, and then I realize how blissful it must be to have never looked that deeply at your life, that you are bothered by the expenditure of your time in this way, that you're okay waking up and driving your little vehicle down to Post and telling people they can't have balloons, and then 8 hours later you take off your sad security guard shoes and you tromp home and you make your TV dinner and you watch your CSI rerun. I don't know what even shows you, but that level of repetitive, redundant life should be interrupted. And I'm sorry if I made your day more difficult than it should have been by asking you to throw all the people with lungs out of the bar. I was almost hit by a car yesterday. Did I mention that? I was on my bike. I was shooting through the neighborhood. I try to pay attention. I really do. I'm not one of those bikers. I don't just hog a lane and make you sit behind me like an asshole. I curb jump. I ride the curbs. I stay on the sidewalks. I'm out of your way as much as I can. But when I'm crossing the street and you got a stop sign, I do expect you to stop. Even if I'm paying attention, but I'm going to go. I went. And this SUV just, we had a moment. And I might have punched his hood. But the realization was that it was the SUV that was probably going to kill me. A car gives you a pretty good chance of survival in a situation like that. But cars are disappearing. Cars are becoming less and less prevalent on the roads. Almost everything's an SUV. Why? Well, I imagine, if I had to venture some guesses, car makers make more when they sell an SUV. Imagine that's a big part of the incentive package. We make more if we sell them, so let's make more of those and less of the things we don't make money on. But people want them. Shut up. We don't care what the people want. We're not here for the people. Also, what is the section? Section 179 of the tax code? Yeah, 179. You get a tax write-off. Did you know this? If your vehicle that you use predominantly not for personal use, whatever, bullshit, nobody's tracking that. If your vehicle is more than 6,000 pounds, you're incentivized. Allows you to deduct the purchase price of qualifying equipment vehicles in the year it was purchased as opposed to depreciating a little bit of time. But the vehicle has to be over 6,000 pounds. What does that include? Lots of Audis, lots of BMWs, X5s, Q7s, Buicks, Cadillacs, Chevrolet, Silverados, all your big pickup trucks, Tahoes, Suburbans, Traverses, Durangos, Citadels, Grand Caravans, all the way up, Yukons and Odysseys, Grand Cherokees, all of these, Range Rovers, Discoveries, all of them, Lincoln Navigator, Aviators, we're only to the L's, the Toyota Tundra, all of these giant Porsche Cayennes, all of these big vehicles. You're incentivized to buy. Get the bigger one. Supersize it. We'll give you some money back if you do. Who's scratching who's back in that industry? And then they advertise to you all the time that because all the cars on the road are giants, because they sold nothing but giant cars, you better get a giant car or you're going to die. Don't get out there in your teeny tiny comfortable little vehicle unless you want to get mauled by one of our super cruiser flat nose bull shark truck cars. I want to drive a smaller car. I don't want to drive a tank, but I have to get one because everything's a tank. They say, they've done the math, vehicles with hood heights that are 40 inches or higher are 45. This is all gibberish. I don't know if any of this is real. I can't give these stats as support of my argument when these stats are just gibberish. Crashes involving vehicles with hood heights that are 40 inches or higher are 45% more likely to result in a fatality as compared to vehicles with hood heights 30 inches or less. Well, what about the ones between 30 and 40? Is that not a real thing? With hood heights that are 30 inches or less with a sloping profile, the data comes amidst ongoing pedestrian safety crisis in which fatalities are at a 40-year high, and the numbers of pedestrians killed has increased by 80% since hitting a low in 2009. How do you read that and make sense of it? I'm sure that supports my argument, but no one could get through that word salad. 80%, 2009, 40-year high, 40 inches or higher, 45% more likely. What the fuck does that mean? Say it in words I can understand. I know you don't want to get a Star Destroyer, but your brother Bobby Lightyear was killed on a speeder bike, so it's all the Empire's fault. So dumb. My grandmother drove a 1973 or 74 Mercury Cougar. This thing was the size of a small yacht. My grandmother was about 5'2". She used to get behind the wheel of that car. She would drag her seatbelt over, hang it on the door handle, drive that little copper-colored, giant-ass monster vehicle with us. And we'd just be in there in the bench seats with lap belts for safety. And I'm sure those cars crumpled and rolled up in a... Man, they were about 10,000 pounds of security wrapped around you in your little head. Now everything's a mess. I kind of want the old stuff back. Standard transmissions. One of those old trucks. I'd even be down for cursive. So many things we've lost that don't really matter. We all know I hate driving. I don't hide it. I'm trying to get to self-drivingville as fast as I can. I think about stoplights all the time and how I wish there was a better way for people to know when they were going to turn green and red. For a brief moment, I was like, the countdown should just be longer. Then people would know when the light was going to change. And then I was like, man, these people can barely make it now. Do I want all these people who can barely take a breath and drive a car at the same time? Do I want them doing high-level math and addition and subtraction, trying to figure out the calculus of whether or not no. I'd rather suffer through the lights just changing as they change. I can't stand drivers. I'm a terrible driver. I admit it. Not a terrible driver. I can obviously control the vehicle very well. Better than most people. Better than almost anybody. I'm great at it. But not by the rules. I control it well, but I don't drive well. And I feel like nowhere but the road is stupidity more evident. And it makes me, there are certain types of drivers that I just can't handle. The ones, how many can I name? The ones, the ones who just, the lane drifters, when you're just driving and they manage to get next to you, and they they do that little drift like a bowling ball, and you gotta tap the horn, and then they do that wake up, and you see them pull their cell phone up because those people. Also the ones who don't understand. There is cruise control on every vehicle. If you're driving a 40-year-old car, I'll give you a certain pass, but everything's got cruise control. If you are pacing me and driving the same speed, and then I speed up, and then you just if you're just doing this over and over because your foot doesn't work right and you're unwilling to hit the cruise control button, if you just go lollygag your way through, it makes me so tempted to just act like I didn't see you in my blind spot. It's almost the same guy with the non-cruise control and driving parallel to you, but there's a slight difference. The cruise control guy doesn't want you to pass him, but he also doesn't want to be behind you. And he doesn't want to use his cruise. It's a very weird, undecided. I'm sure his love life at home sucks. He's struggling with some things. Maybe he's in between jobs. He's in a position where he can't make a decision. But man, buddy, you're on the road with us right now. One of us is going to have to make a decision. You pick a speed, and then I will decide if I'm going faster or slower, and I will orient myself accordingly. But you're going to have to pick one. Your speed can't be somewhere between 48 and 96, depending on what I want to do. That's probably the worst guy. The slow until fast guy. The guy who he's going one speed and then you're going 3 miles an hour faster, so you pull out in the left lane to go around him, but he suddenly realizes he doesn't want another car in front of him, so he just bumps himself up. Now you got to go faster, and this whole chicken... That's why I hate driving. Who else do I hate? Oblivious left lane driver guy. I don't know what your state says, but this is Texas, and it should be like this everywhere. The left lane is for passing only. What are you doing over there? Why are you in it? You shouldn't be. You don't have anything going on. You're sending text messages. They're all sending text messages. Or they're feeding the kid in the back seat. Or they're just oblivious. Their old little hands, just driving them down that left lane. And they're just side by side with those fucking trucks. Why do I let myself get frustrated like this? Parking lot sharks. They're drivers too. Those people who just circle and sit and wait. You lazy. I hope your legs have varicose veins or whatever you get from sitting too long. I hope you got bed sores and saddle sore and cold sores and sore on. I hope everything negative comes your way. Just sitting there with your blinker on. Nobody's even backing out of the spot. You just gonna hazard light it until someone walks out of the store? That's not how this works. Parking lots are like musical chairs. You drive and you drive and you drive and you drive, and eventually the music stops and someone backs out, and that's your spot. But you don't get to just sit there and wait for the song to end. Oh, like it's my birthday. That's not how musical chairs or cars or life works. Yellow light stopper guy can die in a fire, I think. That's if you see the yellow light, I understand it means caution, stop. But it also means caution, go. Especially if I'm behind you. And especially if you pulled out in front of me and started going slower and then are the cause of me missing the light. If we both miss the light, that's one thing. You suck and now I suck because you suck. But my life's not going to suck while you just cruise your little dilly-dally and dawdling ass on down the street. No, sir. You run that light and you let me behind you. Anybody else? That's the last dude. This was on my way home today. Mr. won't pull out in the open lane because there's somebody in the lane. Now, when you're coming out onto a one-way street and there's like 3 lanes all going that direction, you're about to make a left-hand turn onto said one-way street. There's cars in the other 2 lanes, and you got the open left lane, you're allowed to pull out. You don't have to wait for all the cars and all the traffic that ever might come down this street to come to a complete and utter stop before your chicken ass limps its way out into the aisle. Just go on. Take a chance, buddy. Give a little, live a little, just give a little bit of a chance to God that maybe he'll save you if you just have the audacity to pull your dumb car out. What's it matter? You're in an SUV, you're safe. They could all hit you. They're SUVs too. I think you all just kiss and bounce off each other like hydrophobic bubbles or something because we're all so safe in our SUVs. This has been a ranty one. I'm sorry. I normally don't yell this much. I do yell this much. If you go to all the episodes, I probably yell this much. But I needed to get some stuff out, and I needed it to not be organized, and I needed to just talk. So go see the special. Go find me when I'm on tour. I'm going on a super special secret trip this week, so I don't know when I'll be back. An episode next week at some point, and I'll probably have some stories to tell because there's always stories to tell. You can follow me on just about anything. Make sure to like, subscribe, go watch my special, thumbs it up and comment it. And if you get a chance, drop a clip or 2 on Reddit. I would love to see myself in the stand-up comedy subreddit, not posted by myself. You guys are awesome. Cheers. And I will see you on another episode damn soon.